Well, we want to remember some very special people. How many of you had the privilege of knowing Herb Hazzard personally? Yeah, a lot of you. And I'm sorry for the rest of you. Yeah. Right? What a man of God and his wife, Millie. Herb was not only camp's first general director, serving 27 years from 1948 to 1975, he was a man on the move, covering the state to grow Sunday schools and promote camp. And the core of it all, Herb had a love for Jesus and a passion for evangelism. He also enjoyed introducing the living letters, one book at a time, right? It was really kind of fun. Well, joining me are a few folks who not only knew her, but they had a chance to work with them, starting with Vicki Gustafson. So if you want to just say, what's your connection to Camp Lebanon, and then we'll talk about her.
I grew up in West Concord, Minnesota, so where Faith was born, or they lived there when they started camp. And it was First Baptist Church then, and now it's Faith Community Church. And when I was in 5th grade, we had a new pastor come, and his name was Ira Blomberg, and he asked the adults why we weren't using Camp Lebanon at that time. I had gone to a couple other camps down in southern Minnesota, and I met Herb down at Camp Washington before I came to Camp Lebanon. So, but he said, why aren't we using the church? Because the church was one of the charter churches. And so then we started coming to Camp Lebanon. So from 5th grade on up, I came as a camper, and then from 9th grade till I was done with high school, I was here all summer, every summer. And so that's my connection. Working for her.
That's right.
Yeah.
What was it like to work for Herb?
You did what he asked. He always carried his clipboard around.
That's his clipboard.
This is his.
Property of Herb.
This is his. Property of Herb. We found it when we were setting up the museum stuff yesterday. So this is his, and he always carried it around. And sometimes I heard somebody say he would be walking around with his clipboard, and he would set it down and play with the kids. So I thought that was, yeah, he would take time. You did what he said when he said it.
Herb had a pinch right here.
Yeah, right? Yes, he could get
come
your
behind
shoulder.
you.
Yes, yeah. Anyway, right. So that was what. In the last 2 years, I ran the camp, managed the canteen for him, and I was a lifeguard, and I also sold clothing or apparel, the old T-shirts that are in there.
That's right. How about
in
that?
The museum. So
pass it down to Beth there. Beth, what's your connection to Camp Lebanon?
I was from Grace Community Church.
By the way, these two are married, right? Just so you know.
I was from Grace Community Church in Golden Valley, and through the connections of our pastor Walter Benton, we were a camp church. Even though we were not a Baptist church, but we were connected to church. So I'm grateful that they got us connected. As a young camper, I started as a 1st grader, 2nd grader, whatever. And in one of those years, Mark's sister was my camp counselor, and I didn't meet him until many years later.
How about that?
Yeah.
So what did you do for Herb?
Herb was just turning over the director job to Larry Magnuson, because 75 and 76 were my full summer years. And I did projects around camp. I like to paint things, fix things, whatever. And so Herb called me Girl Friday.
Girl Friday. Good to do it. And what was it like to work with Herb?
Well, he was everywhere. He was a servant leader. So whether it was sweeping the steps to the chalet, bringing Brad up to camp, and Rhonda Rath and myself, in the car to come on up, or doing the night watchman job, and then taking cat naps during the day. He did whatever needed to be done to make the camp flourish.
I know he didn't sleep.
No, it was a cat nap. So.
Mark, come on over here. You had a different kind of encounter with Herb.
A little different encounter with Herb. It was the summer of 1969. I was 13 years old, staying in a cabin right over here. And Herb, of course, one of his jobs was the night watchman, and so he'd come around and say, "Boys, quiet down." Right?
Anybody ever hear that?
Ever heard that voice?
Yeah.
Yeah. And 5 minutes later, he'd come back, Boys, settle down. Well, third time around, if you heard Herb come the third time, you're in trouble. He's got something for you to do, right? And he was pretty creative in things he wanted people to do, like move rocks from here to there and that kind of thing. But he came up with this other idea that night, and it was probably one of the worst things you could ever think possible for a young boy, 13-year-old boy. He took us from there, got our shoes on, brought us down to the dining hall. And down in the dining hall, the first person we see is the preacher dude, the guy who gives the talks. And we're going to have to, oh no, we're sitting through another chapel. Yeah, it'd be any worse than that. But this guy was a chalk artist also. And so he did a really quick talk, drew the Calvary crosses, and something just kind of spoke to my heart that night. And after we were done, we were walking back to our cabin right here, right where that tent is. I kind of lagged behind the rest of my campers. I looked up in the beautiful starry sky, and I had a time with God where I said, okay, time to follow you. And so indirectly, Herb was just kind of getting boys to bed, but indirectly, his role in my really committing my life to the Lord was part of just who he was. He was just continuing serving and helping and
Yeah.
yeah.
That's Herb, isn't he? We just praise the Lord for Herb and Millie.